The Daily Podcast is a service of CNC News brought to you by the Greece Chamber of Commerce, providing more than 800 member companies with business solutions since 1984. Local colleges and universities will manage some Rochester schools under a plan given by City School Superintendent Vulcan Vargas to the Rochester Board of Education last night. Dr. Vargas told a school board committee his plan to improve student achievement starts by contracting with colleges and universities around Rochester to take over management of schools that need to be improved. They're using this model in Buffalo and in New York City. Teachers and staff remain paid by the school district, but the university actually runs the school. Superintendent Vargas says this kind of agreement needs state approval. He says there are many outstanding colleges and universities with excellent track records of education management in Rochester that can help the worst-performing city schools. Vargas's plan also includes revitalizing career and technical education, engaging the community to improve student behavior, expanding summer school, and coming up with a 5-year plan to close the district's structural budget deficit by reducing costs. A former Pembroke Town justice has accepted a plea deal. It could end the official misconduct and coercion charges against him. Robert Alexander and his daughter Brandy Watts were indicted after an audit found more than $10,000 missing from the Corfu Village Court. Alexander was the village justice at the time. His daughter was the court clerk. She was charged with stealing the money and the judge with abusing his position to protect her. Watts has pleaded guilty to tampering with public records and paid restitution. She'll be on probation for a year. Alexander resigned as a judge, and the charges against him will be dropped if he stays out of trouble for the next 6 months. 3 Fairport men are charged with counterfeiting. They were caught using computers and printers to make fake $10 and $20 bills in their apartment. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office says 2 men tried to pay their check at the Parrington McDonald's with a counterfeit 10. The clerk recognized it as a fake and called 911. The men ran, but were quickly picked up by the Sheriff's Department. Andrew Tomaso and Jonathan Alger admitted to sheriff's investigators and to Secret Service agents that they had passed numerous counterfeit bills over the past week. They led them to a search of the apartment on Warwick Drive, where both lived, along with a third roommate named Eric Sykes. Sykes admitted making the counterfeit money using laptop computers and printing gear. Deputies confiscated all the equipment and some more counterfeit found in the apartment. Sykes is charged with first-degree criminal possession of a forged instrument and possession of counterfeiting devices. He's in the Monroe County Jail. His roommates are charged with criminal possession of a forged instrument, and they've been ordered to appear in court. The man who fell a story and landed on top of another fan at Sunday's Buffalo Bills game has been banned from Ralph Wilson Stadium by Bills CEO Russ Brandon. The team says on its website that the incident violates the fan code of conduct and won't be tolerated. Brandon says the team is working with the Erie County Sheriff's Office in its investigation of what happened. The fan tried to slide down the railing at the end of the upper deck and fell over backwards, landing on top of the other man in the deck below. The back-flopping fan got away with a shoulder injury. The man he landed on suffered a head injury. Both had to be hospitalized. The governor's office says a new biochemical startup is locating at the Eastman Business Park in Rochester, bringing 170 jobs within 5 years as it ramps up. Naturally Scientific U.S. produces high-value plant and vegetable oils through newly developed technology. It's a partnership of Naturally Scientific from Britain and BCW Chemicals of New York. Governor Cuomo says this is another economic boost to the Rochester area. New York and 9 other states have signed a $17 million settlement with Google over its use of software to track what millions of customers were viewing online. Attorney General Eric Schneiderman says the agreement secures close to $900,000 for New York. The settlement results from a complaint filed by 10 states over Google's unauthorized placement of cookies on computers running the Apple Safari web browser. Cookies are those little bits of software that let companies track what you do with your computer and gather information about your consumer preferences. Most companies use them, but Apple Safari has a default setting that blocks them. You have to specifically authorize cookies to be allowed on your computer. In 2011 and 2012, Google quietly altered the coding on its double-click advertising platform to circumvent Safari's privacy settings without customers' knowledge. They discontinued the practice after it became known through the internet and the news media, but the attorneys general of those 10 states charged Google broke their state consumer protection and computer piracy laws by disabling the Safari privacy settings. Links to these and other stories are to the left of the player window. At the bottom, links you can use to post news and information directly to us. The next podcast is As It Happens, updates as necessary. I'm Bud Lowell, CNC News.